Hello, everybody. You are watching Out of Order. My name is Anthony Buono.
My name is Ben Mayer.
And today we're going to be talking about some pretty crazy news. The president of Iran has died. Ebrahim Raisi has died. He died in a helicopter incident. Apparently, he was flying through the mountains, and it was foggy, and they got all messed up, and they flew right into the mountains and died. That is so kind of funny.
Yeah.
Iran asked the United States to help them recover their remains, and the United States agreed to do so happily.
Yeah, apparently Iran doesn't use GPS because they think the West would be spying on them through GPS devices. So I imagine that's why they asked the US for help.
There was an Iranian official that actually said that the US implemented sanctions on Iran is responsible for the president's death because of lack of aerospace parts that could have made the helicopter better.
Really?
Yeah, but I think that's all BS. I mean, I just think
that's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny, right? Yeah. I mean, it's like, how many things can you blame on the United States, bro? Just fly your helicopter
Anything,
better.
Apparently.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Geez, that video, dude, I hope this doesn't get seen by Iranian people because they're going to get really mad the way I'm bashing the president.
I don't think so because, I mean, we can talk about this maybe later, but a lot of people were pretty happy with the fact that this guy died. He was not a super popular guy.
There was a lot of positive feedback from the population where they're like, all right, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
The United States is having the international repercussions and reasoning for all this is going to be interesting.
Okay.
Because the U.S. now doesn't know exactly who they're dealing with next. And so the United States at least had, as much as they didn't like Ebrahim or Raisi, they knew what to expect from him. And so now the United States has to like preempt and kind of think about the new leadership that could be coming down the line.
I guess. I think almost any takeaway from this is going to be overblown. It's even from us, it's probably more likely to be looking for a takeaway than one that's actually to be found there.
Yeah, because
the president is not the ruler of Iran. That's the supreme leader. He was supposed to be the successor, but the next successor, basically there are two groups in Iran that make sure the country adheres to its interpretation, its specific interpretation of the Quran and follows Islamic law. And these are an 88-member assembly of experts and a guardian council. So that assembly of experts is voted on. They're elected. But the candidates are always vetted heavily by the guardian council, half of whom are chosen directly by the supreme leader. So you basically have a self-feedback system that guarantees that there is no significant policy change as far as their adherence to Islamic law and how democratic they might become, how free they might become. So the president was going to be up for election, and he was super unpopular because the economic situation in Iran is terrible. And there were massive protests that we talked about recently in 2022 over the killing of a woman for apparently not covering her hair well enough with her hijab. So the people are just not happy with Iran. It's not even completely clear that he would have won re-election. He was apparently one of the top two options for a successor to the supreme leader, but I don't think whatever other option they choose would really change Iran that much and who the U.S. is dealing with.
I think you're right. I think you're right overall with that. The conservative factions in Iran really liked Raisi, and they wanted to see Raisi, and they've invested a lot of time into Raisi to become the supreme leader. They've invested in this guy for a long time, so his death is a big blow to conservative reactionary factions in Iran.
Sure.
I want to talk about the parliamentary elections that happened this March in Iran because they did just take place a few months ago. And they're notable because they saw the lowest voter turnout in the history since the Islamic Revolution of 1979.
Yeah.
And turnout was at 41%. That's the lowest it's ever been. And what it's showing is people are just don't have any faith in the government and don't have any faith that their vote can change anything.
Yes.
And so there have been 275 prominent activists who had called for a vote boycott in the Iranian elections, and it seems to have played out. And then we see the lowest voter turnout since 1979. So there's a lot of discontent seen in Iran. And if, the Iranian supreme leader and the Guardian Council can't get their stuff in order, I think they're going to be due for a big reckoning with the next generation of Iranians coming in.
Yeah, the question is just whether they're going to be able to organize well enough. I read an article.
You mean the next generation of Iranians?
The revolution.
Yeah, the revolution.
Yeah. I read an article about how after 2022, so there was a crackdown because there were protests after the killing of this woman in 2022, and they killed like 500 people, 500 protesters around there, and injured thousands more. Part of the reason people don't like Raisi is because he is the blame is largely attributed to him. I think rightly. That scares people. That puts them underground. I read a BBC article about how they've now gone underground. They're still working supposedly on the revolution, but this is a government that isn't afraid to squeeze tight when it needs to.
Absolutely.
So we'll see if it comes to anything. Thanks for watching this episode of Out of Order. If you liked the video, consider becoming a patron on Patreon.
On Patreon, we release exclusive content every week. This week, we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court decision upholding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We're going to talk about how BMW got caught with their pants down using child labor. That didn't sound good. And then new updates in the UAW push to unionize the South.
And then for our deep dive this week, we're looking into the Baumol effect.